Hello and welcome to the Global Travel Channel podcast show. I'm your host, Mark Philpott, and if you are a regular listener to the show, welcome back. It's great to have your loyalty. Hope you're enjoying all the amazing episodes that we've got with these incredible travellers around the world. And if you're a newbie to the show, welcome for the first time. It's great to have you on board and thank you for finding us. Don't forget, go over to our website at www.globaltravelchannel.com. You can find all of our previous episodes listed there. You can download them from iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, a host of other places. They're all listed there on our website. And you can find some incredible episodes on people's travel journeys around the world. Today's no exception. My guests today have brought a sailboat. They've done it up. They've got a crew together. They're traveling around the world and they're making a comedy series about this trip. So why don't we go over and meet James and Paddy, my guests today on the show. James and Paddy, welcome to the Global Travel Channel podcast show.
Oh, well, thank you for having us, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Nice to be here.
Great to have you on the show. Where are you talking to us from in the world today?
We're in Las Palmas, the Gran Canaria, which is in the Canary Islands, off the coast of Morocco.
Oh, it must be fantastic at this time of the year.
I think it's fantastic all times of the year. It's either very, very sunny or a little bit of rain, but yeah, it's a beautiful day.
Yeah, quite a steady climate. Nice, though. Yeah.
Well, with your two accents, I'm assuming that the weather's probably better where you are now than compared to back in home.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, definitely.
Yeah.
Plenty of envious messages coming from home at the minute.
I bet there are as well, yeah. Now, a special guest on my show, one of the things that I do is I like to offer you the opportunity to dedicate this particular episode to someone special in your life. So who would you like to each dedicate this show to today?
I'm going to dedicate it to Paddy. He's a very special person for me.
I'm also going to dedicate it to myself, Paddy.
You can't dedicate it to yourself.
Paddy, I must say, actually, out of the 85 previous guests I've had on my show, you're the first person to actually dedicate it to themselves. So that
sums it up, Mark. That sums him up.
Did any of the other 85 dedicate it to me?
No, but I can go back and ask them after this, if you like, and see if they would like to change their minds.
If you would, that would be that would be ideal for everyone involved, I think.
Let's dedicate it to the other crew members.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Dedicating it to the other crew members.
Yeah, they're a good bunch.
Yeah.
Paddy's the worst out of them, actually, so he's the last person that should be, probably.
I was going to say, that must make James feel a lot better by dedicating it to the rest of the crew.
Yeah, I do feel better already, actually, yeah.
Yeah, I wish I'd thought of that.
Now, I've told everybody before starting recording with you guys that you guys are on a sailboat, you fixed it up, you're sailing around the world, and you're doing a comedy series. So let's start at the beginning. How did you, who's doing it first of all? Who are you guys? Where are you from? And how did you all meet?
Well, it's a complicated one. Currently on the boat, there's two Englishmen, myself and James. There's an Irish couple. There's a guy from Finland, a girl from France, and two Swedish guys at the moment.
Very cosmopolitan boat. Yeah, it's international.
You guys got the short straws to do the podcast today, did you?
Yeah. I think we were the ones. Yeah, we were the ones who were least useful at other things. I think would probably be fair to say. So
yeah, we're most expendable.
But I must say, Paddy, I was watching the YouTube trailer video the other day, and you didn't appear in it.
That's right, yeah. I was the main one for writing it, but then I was working in China at the time, saving money to go on this trip, so I wasn't in Sweden then.
Ah, okay, fair enough. Good excuse that you're on the other side of the world and you couldn't be in the video. So you guys have all come together from different walks of life. How did you actually come up with this idea of circumnavigating the world and making a comedy series? Where did that seed get planted, so to speak?
Fred, who's the kind of captain and organizer, he's a bit of a schemer, and he about 5 years ago or something set up a Facebook group saying, let's, who wants to go around the world in a boat, and the idea obviously sounds very romantic, and a lot of people signed up, and then and then ultimately we all kind of probably agreed to it in different drunken conversations with him, and then couldn't back out, and here we are. Yeah. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
That's quite a good description.
It's a good summary, yeah.
It's funny you mentioned alcohol in that conversation because I had assumed right from the beginning that this was some kind of pub bet that went terribly wrong.
Yeah, not far off. Yeah, it's not. I mean, yeah, I mean, certainly when you consider the scale of the project, it's very easy, to think of them in a sober frame of mind. They're pretty daunting and ambitious, and you probably don't think about how much time each facet of the project consumes. But when you've had a couple of beers, everything you can I don't know. You can take over the world, can't you?
It's like a pub bet where we don't know who won. It seems like
Where nobody wins. With no winner.
I can tell you one thing, by the end of this trip, it won't be Fred that's the winner, that's for sure.
That's pretty good insight. Yeah, he would agree.
Probably fair to say.
Okay, so 5 years ago, that's quite a long time between the seed being planted and action starting to happen. So tell us about the kind of chronological number of events that have happened along the way. How did you come across, first of all, buying the boat? Where did that process start?
Yeah, well, that was in. I mean, the kind of the initial thing was to get a boat, and then I think Fred and another guy, they said, look guys, we could again. Fred must have had a couple of drinks because he said, look guys, we can get a much bigger boat, we can have a much more comfortable time, we can kind of add another facet to our adventure by building the boat. And I think they realised that we could just get much better value by building the boats ourselves. How true that is, I don't know, although I think we've done okay. And we have got a nice big comfortable boat. But yeah, ultimately they bought that only about a year and a couple of months ago. So the work has been quite fast paced. And Fred and a couple of other people have performed miracles. Fred in particular. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's been brilliant to get the boat to this stage and to this part of the world, because it's been grueling at times, as I'm sure you can imagine, especially for him.
So tell us about what needed to be done with the boat. Where was the boat first of all purchased? What country?
It was purchased in Stockholm, Sweden, and when it was first bought, it was just a hull, basically a hull and an engine, of which the entire boat needed fitting out. So it was brought down from Stockholm to Norrköping, this very small town in Sweden, and from there the real work on the boat began. So
you basically had to refit the whole interior of the boat.
Yeah, we had to fit it. It was being built by this old Austrian guy who was planning on taking it into the Arctic. I think it was one of these lifelong labours that probably, I think ultimately his wife had to step in and tell him he was 84 and it wasn't happening, which is a bit of a shame. But
he was 84 at this stage. We're not sure at what stage he started this as well. He could have been a teenager when he first began.
Yeah, the boat's got a very... The boat feels like it was bought somewhere around the Industrial Revolution, so probably dates from around the 1870s. But it's pretty sturdy. It's got that kind of metal was first invented, let's use it kind of vibe to it.
Do you know if he's still alive? Because you probably took away his man cave that he's been sitting in for the last 60 years, and now he's got nothing to do.
I think he's probably living it up in Tahiti with all of our money and chuckling away to himself.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a man. If this was his man cave, then his wife's giving him an even harder time than than I alluded to earlier.
So amongst the group of you, was there a vast array of skill sets to be able to get this boat fitted out, or how did that work? How did that come about?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got, in terms of both sailing and construction, there is a very wide range of skill sets, from pretty much experts to me and James. You can go all the way down from one to the other. So we've got lots of people who are good. Because, I mean, beyond the 8 of us that are here, there's another, 4 or 5 people who are heavily involved as owners, or they'll be joining us at some point. So some people are experts in electrics, other with navigational stuff, carpentry, all kinds of things, whereas there are those of us who are good at doing podcasts and carrying wood and washing up.
So how come I didn't get the guys that are good at podcasts on the show today?
You set yourself up for that one, mate.
They're doing the electrics and carpentry.
Boat refurbishment came along in a lovely place of Norrköping. I've actually been there. I know the lovely spot you're talking about on the east coast of Sweden. How long did that take from the time it arrived there until you were ready to push out and head off?
Oh, I think it's ongoing. I mean, we're at a stage where it's fairly comfortable to live in here, but we still, have a big list of things we need to do. I mean, it's probably about a two-thirds built boat, in terms of the things that need to complete. Like I said, we only bought it 15 months ago or something, 16 months ago. So it's been that amount of time, and obviously for a lot of that time, we've been trying to move it as well. So about a year, and incredible progress in a year.
And we set sail from North Shopping, I think it was July the 14th, more or less. So, yeah, it was roughly however many months of building there. Set sail July the 14th, and then now here.
Had you two guys had a lot of sailing experience before?
No, we'd...
Still haven't.
We'd had one kind of practice trip where I think 5 or 6 of us who were involved in the project had a kind of sailing trial one summer where we sailed from mainland Sweden across to Gotland, the main island there. And basically, myself, James, and Simon were seasick the entire way there, and we spent basically 12 hours lying down trying not to be sick.
You vomited on one of the Cunninghams, didn't you?
I did too, yeah. Didn't even know where it was until I managed it.
Yeah.
So there was one awful moment in which the two experienced sailors were doing all the work, and we were on this tiny, tiny little boat, and me, James, and Simon were just lying down trying not to be sick. James ran out to be sick first, and then the boat kind of leaned over. I fell on top of Simon, about to be sick, in his face. He managed to push me off. Then I got outside, but Simon beat me outside, which meant there was no space to be sick. So I had to kind of climb James's shoulders and be sick over the top of James. So all 3 of us were there, vomiting away, just getting used to the pleasures of sailing.
Real bonding experience.
This is where I wish my podcast show was a video excerpt, and we could actually now put up that video excerpt of that actually happening. It would have been quite colourful, I'm sure.
Yeah,
it could well happen again.
Yeah.
Colourful's the word.
So that was the first initiation process, I guess, in finding your sea legs, yeah?
Yes, yeah, exactly right. And then in the summer, we spent, myself and Paddy spent a couple of months, helping to move the boat. Although the progress was slow, we ran into a few problems here and there, but we managed to get some sailing in as well. And I think we've made good steps, and I think we're in a good position to push on now.
Have you learnt yet what the acronym in BOAT stands for?
Acronym BOAT. No.
It means bring out another 1,000.
We are quickly learning that.
Very good. I like that one.
Bring out another 1,000.
They're bottomless pits when it comes to cash flow, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'll be bringing that one up, definitely.
Yeah.
Now, I have a lot of avid listeners who are boaties, so you're going to have to tell me what brand of the boat is and give us a little bit more of a technical detail, because they'll be hanging out to find out what you guys are going to go around the world on.
Yeah, I'll let James handle this one. He knows a bit more than me about this. He's good at this stuff.
Do you know where the bow and the stern is, James?
Bow, I've been looking for that for a little while. I feel like I'm getting closer.
We thought we found it the other day, didn't we? But it turned out to be the toilet.
But in all seriousness, it's an Anso 42. But like we said, it's got an extended afton keel because the guy was trying to prepare it to head into the Arctic for some reason. The design is ultimately by him, but it's an Anso 42, but it's now kind of 51 feet total, and weighs about 25 tons.
It's a steel yacht?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. So it's a good ocean going around the world type vessel.
Slow and steady, and hopefully safe as well.
Yeah, any icebergs or anything, we would go straight through them. Like we're very strong.
No, I was just going to say we'll probably find out if that's the truth when you get down to the Southern Ocean.
Well, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's that'll be next step.
So has Fred got a sailing background? Is Fred more or less the man of the sea, or what?
He did. Yeah, he's the most experienced in that sense, in that he did a master's in to become a marine captain. So in terms of regulations of the sea and general knowledge of all this type of stuff, he's a real expert, and one of the other guys who's involved was also on the course with him. So yeah, and with navigation and the sea itself, Fred really knows his stuff.
Have you guys done a lot of traveling around the world pre this project? Have you been off and done backpacking tours and other jobs around the world?
Yeah, drifters or loafers or slackers or travelers or whatever you want to call it. We've both seemed to have found our way around the world a little bit. As we
Englishman's okay to determine all that. You can define all that just by saying I'm an Englishman.
We haven't tried to colonize anywhere yet, though.
That was already done a couple of 100 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it.
when this boat was built.
Yeah, missed the boat on that one, didn't we?
Sorry, Matt, we both lived abroad a lot and worked abroad a lot, primarily as teachers or bar staff from South America or Asia or different parts of Europe, Central America. So we've both done quite a lot of travel and living abroad.
So this is a travel show. It's fast turning into a comedy show. But you can tell me what have your travel experiences kind of brought to you so far in your life? What makes travel so special for you guys?
Oh, well, that's a big question. I think I think I don't know. If you were gonna you could probably talk about that for for days. But ultimately, for me, it's about meeting new people. It's about the cultural experiences. It's great just to learn about other people and other places. I'm a big fan of history and art and all that kind of stuff. And ultimately, I think that all. Everything just kind of meets into whether it's language and art and people and food. I mean, it's just everything, isn't it? The things you see and the things you do and the people you meet and it's just endless, really, isn't it? I mean, it's just like anything. The more you learn, the more you realize you don't know, and there's not a country in the world that I don't think would be fascinating to visit. I think that's something you'd agree with, Paddy.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. The list is endless. I mean, I think the more you travel, the more you meet new people, different cultures, the more you know about the world, but the more, I guess, you know about yourself, and you kind of grow with that. And a guy I met traveling once, I thought, put it very well, that he felt people that were always traveling and living new places were experience junkies. I think that's kind of true. Like, I'm always looking to see new places and do new things and have new experiences.
And sometimes you get the chance to do things like appear on Bolivian TV as a wrestler and stuff like that. Paddy's undefeated in the Bolivian wrestling leagues, I think. Is that right?
That's right, yeah. Once in La Paz, yeah, I got to perform in a wrestling show there, and yeah, it was live on TV. And yeah, I've not been asked back since, but I just assume that says I get to retire undefeated.
Paddy, was that another pub bet?
No, that was just my ex-girlfriend kind of set it up for me, and then we got in there.
Up for you. You're gonna love this. Happy birthday!
You're fighting two massive guys. It was myself and a female wrestler were involved in a tag team match against an unscrupulous villain and a corrupt referee. It's the best way to put it.
What, was the referee on the other team?
Yeah, he joined in, and we both kind of joined in. It was just 1-on-1. Then the referee became increasingly corrupt, and my role was to become so enraged by this that I jumped out the crowd, got into the ring, and started wrestling with them. But unfortunately, the first time I did it, I missed my cue and did it much too early. And the wrestlers kind of had to shoo me back to my seat because I'd gone about 5 minutes too early. But then I got it right the next time round, and yeah, it was a resounding defeat for that villain and referee.
Corruption, man.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to beat corruption.
Just do my bit for society.
Yeah.
What I'm fascinated to find out is how quickly after that wrestling match was the girlfriend the ex?
Thanks for that.
It's funny you should ask that. Yeah. That corrupt referee and her are now married.
Oh, really?
That's not true.
That's not true, no. No, that's not true. Probably not long after that, no.
Mark, how would you sum up the joy of travelling?
Really amazed now doing the show because I'm talking to people about their travel experiences and listening to other people's experiences of seeing the world. And I've heard so many people talk about countries that I've been to a number of times, and yet their view and their vision and their experience in that particular country was most of the time very different to mine. So it's really interesting to hear that now and looking back on those places because it's giving me something else to think about. And I think the one thing that connects us all around the world is that we all want the same things in life. We all want to be loved. We all want to be connected in some way. We all ultimately have respect for each other once we understand each other. And I think traveling does that. It makes you understand different cultures in a way that's portrayed way beyond the media and everything else that we get to see in life. So I think traveling is, as you just said before, I love that term actually that you used about being an experienced junkie, because that really sums it up in 2 words, and that's a great way of saying it.
But Mark, is what you're saying is that when you went to Bolivia, you didn't appear on TV as a wrestler? Because I think you're going to have to go back.
Well, just listening to that story has made me incredibly jealous. And not only would I want to go back to Bolivia and become, I'd like to go up a level from being a wrestler. I'd like to wear my badminton whites and take on their badminton champion of the country, actually. That's where I see myself.
Are you a badminton enthusiast?
No, not at all. But it's something that I'd like to do in Bolivia. I think the sport of badminton's a complete waste of time, but why not go and do it in Bolivia?
Good answer, Mark. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
So that we don't get you guys asking me too many questions, I'll be the one putting down the rule now that I'm only the one that's allowed to ask questions on this show. Okay, but that was a good try, though. That was a good try.
Okay, fair enough. Worth a shot.
Now, I told a couple of my mates that I was going to have you guys on the show today and that it could go off in any direction. So I asked them to give me a few questions to ask you guys about what they want to know about your trip. So I'm going to fire a few of those at you now, if that's okay.
Of course.
What's the ratio of food versus alcohol on the boat? That's the first question that was asked.
Well, we've actually just done the food shopping the last 2 days, and there's enough food for, I think it's 7 weeks, and it's a lot. And then any alcohol at the moment is bought outside of the travel budget. So at the moment, there's very little. There's just a bit at each day that people are getting. And then everyone has to make their decision about how much they want to take with them, really.
I think ultimately, to answer the question, it's 99% food, because the booze does not last. You know, it's a free-for-all. So no, but I think the plan is to stay relatively sober on the crossings. You know, although I'm absolutely sure there'll be a bit of personal stashing going on. But no, look, I think we will be keen to drink and party when the time is right. But hopefully a bit of emphasis on safety when at sea, I think is how we'll be approaching.
Yeah, good. I think the seriousness of the question comes across in wanting to know a bit more about what is the kind of diet on board that you guys will be having, and when you're having to provision for such a long ocean passage, what are some of the staple meals that you intend to be having every day?
There's going to be a lot of chickpeas, that's for sure. We seem to have bought the entire quantity of chickpeas on Gran Canaria, which is quite an achievement. At the supermarket yesterday, there was none left, so they're clean out, and we're thinking about setting up a business of importing chickpeas back to Gran Canaria.
So yeah, chickpeas. Chickpeas. We're gonna make back some of those thousands.
Actually, you could probably do that, because the boat registered in Sweden, or where's the boat registered?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right, in Sweden.
Okay, so you could use the boat as an independent, you go 12 miles off the shore of Gran Canaria and you can probably sell it back in, as you just mentioned, actually.
Yeah, there's options.
Yeah.
But a lot of the staple diets will be, there's a lot of pasta, rice, couscous, things like this, and yeah, lots of different tinned goods.
Yeah, I guess I bet it's standard for boats, isn't it? That kind of stuff, eh? The tinned goods. Yeah.
Now, the next question obviously came from a sailor, because he's asked me, what is the watch schedule process that you guys are going to take on board for the Atlantic crossing? Have you got a 3-hourly watch or a 4-hourly watch? How's that going to work?
Yeah, but the plan is for 4-hourly watches in pairs with overlaps and with responsibilities for all 7 people on top of the watches, except for the cook for the week, who doesn't have a watch. So it's 6 people on a rotating 4-hourly watch, so everybody kind of gets as the time goes on, people have different parts of night and day and all the rest of it. So Fred has what can only be described as a brilliant brain, and he's put together a timetable that seems to have it all covered. Should keep us all busy, and also hopefully give us a chance to enjoy it as well.
What are you looking forward to the most on this first real serious ocean passage, both of you? What can you say is something you're looking forward to?
Getting to the Caribbean for me. It will be that, but then, in all honesty, I'm really looking forward to the crossing. It will be a unique experience, something that I've never thought I would ever do, and never done anything like it. So, although it'll be very up and down, I am really looking forward to it, and hopefully seeing some whales. I'd like very much as well, and
Gun whale.
a gun whale would be my
Yeah.
ideal choice, and continuing to make the show as we travel in, I suppose.
What about the stars?
What about the stars? Yeah, what about the beautiful nature and environment that you guys are going to be in, and the silence? You know, what about the silence of just being out there in the middle of nowhere?
Well, James will be there, so it won't be that
I was about to
silent.
say, with Paddy snoring, there won't be too much silence, but the stars that he won't be able to ruin, I'm hopeful of.
I know for sure that I'm already going to get requests to say you've got to have these guys back on when they get over to the Caribbean, because we've got to hear about all the tales that actually took place on the journey. That's for sure. So I'm sure that's going to happen. Tell us about the comedy side of it. How's that coming together? It's a scripted show, I hear, and a lot of method acting and all the rest of it. But how's that taking shape before you head off from Gran Canaria?
It's going well. It was originally Fred again, the mastermind or evil genius, if you will. He also put this idea together when he came to visit me in China. That we'd always talked about doing something whilst we were traveling, whether it would just be a kind of standard sailing vlog or something with a twist. And in the end, we decided to, well,
wasn't his original idea to try and document it through the eyes of the onboard goldfish?
yeah, that's where I really stepped in as the head writer after that. So he put this idea across that we could do it as a sitcom, and we both got very excited about it, and we took out pen and paper in the restaurant we were in and started writing down ideas for the different characters and storylines, and since then both of us have been working very hard on that. So we developed 6 central characters that are sort of caricatures of ourselves, and we think the dynamic is quite good between them.
Mm-hmm.
And we've just been filming the pilot, which is all set here in Gran Canaria, and episode 2 will be set on the Atlantic. And in an ideal world we'd do 10 episodes, but we'll have to see how that goes. I mean, as long as we've got the characters set and the general tone of it, I think we can go any direction with it, really.
So where can my listeners get to follow this? Is it going to be through your website, on YouTube channel? How do they get hold of it?
I think both. I mean, certainly through our Instagram we'll have all kind of connections to it, which is the Circumglobal, or also we will just be putting it on YouTube and on our website, which is circumglobal.org.
Okay, I'm going to put all the links in the show notes of the show today so people can easily find it.
Thank you.
And how regularly do you think you're going to be able to put out each episode?
I think it will vary slightly depending on where we are and what we're doing, but ideally it would be about once a month, maybe once every 2 months, something like that, because we do have crossing the Atlantic. My understanding is we won't have a great deal of Wi-Fi whilst we're there, so we will hopefully post episode 1 either when we get there or perhaps when we get to Cape Verde, but roughly every 2 months, I would say.
Okay then. And how does one plan a schedule for this sort of thing? Because it's one thing planning a schedule for the sailing side of it, but have you got some kind of routine that you're going to be doing from the production of the show side of it?
Yeah, we've done pretty well with this. I feel we've worked very well as a team. Everyone's been very enthusiastic with the acting. James has been doing the sound, which is no small job. Simon's our main cameraman and director of photography, Fred being the director, and other people, for example, Sean, one of the guys who's just joined us, was helping out with the audio yesterday. So it's a lot of just team effort and planning as best we can as we go along. It's a bit more slapdash than we would have liked, but as you say, there's a lot going on.
It's quite funny because, I mean, on top of us not really having much filming experience, although obviously, we've tried to research and all the rest of it, we're also obviously undermanned. You know, as in, you know, we'll be trying to record a scene, but we won't have a sound man, so we'll end up with one of the characters holding the microphone, and then we'll have to make sure that the camera doesn't kind of go down that far. So you'll have to act while you're holding a microphone, like, you know, wait, you can't use your hand. So a bit of that kind of stuff. We're having to, you know, multitask a little bit, I'd say. But hopefully it's going okay. We'll have to see how the pilot turns out. But it's been good fun, and you know, like if it turns out well, you know, we'll be delighted. I think some of it, you know, should be quite funny. So fingers crossed.
What's the goal at the end of the series with the actual series of the show? Is there a goal to get it out there in mainstream anywhere, or are you just doing this to get into the, you know, social media world at this stage?
I'm hoping to get a big contract from Netflix and get off this boat. Basically, it's my aim.
Yeah, similar. Yeah.
Win a few BAFTAs and Oscars and go from there. But no, I think just get it out there. I mean, the main thing is, for myself personally anyways, that been sending out scripts and so forth, or novels, since I was 15, and had a number of close calls, whereas like now there's finally this opportunity to actually make something. So for me, the process of actually doing it and seeing the writing come to life is the most exciting part. And then ideally, I think it's quite a niche idea that we've got that's never been done before. And if it could be successful even in a small way, I think there's all kinds of directions it can go. And most of all, just to enjoy the process of doing it, really.
I think with any type of art form, if you know, it's probably a bad idea to have too many grand ideas. Ultimately, if you can make something where you can express yourself and you can make it something that you're proud of, then you've already won, and anything on top of that is a bonus. I think, you know, there's not a person in the world that wouldn't like to make a living out of some kind of art, or, you know, there's certainly lots of people that would love to make a living out of some kind of art, but ultimately, you know, we just want to make something that we can be proud of, and I think that's a good thing for any artist to kind of be focused on. And if you can get exposure and get opportunities to keep doing that, then that's obviously amazing as well. But you know, there's no reason to put limits on anything you do, but at the same time, the you know, the thrill has to be in the journey as well.
Look, I think it's a brilliant idea, and one of the reasons I wanted to have you guys on the show today was that I've already reached out to several of these very high-profile YouTube sailing video makers, and I'm going to have them on the show at a later date. But I wanted to have you guys on because I think by having this twist in your sail, so to speak, with this comedy aspect, I think it's really unique, and I think it can really, really fly. So
thank you.
I'm all for it, and if I can do anything through my channels to help you promote it other than just doing this podcast show, I'm happy to do that because I think it's brilliant.
Oh, thanks very much.
That's great. Also, twisting your sail. That's very good, Mark. I like that one.
You'll remember that, mate, when you're halfway across the Atlantic in a big storm. You'll remember that particular saying that I just told you.
I've already stolen it. I'm just jotting that down in the script for episode 2 now.
I've got that written next to the boat thing, haven't we?
Yeah, bring out another 1,000. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Interested to know, what do you see as some of the challenges of this journey? All jokes aside, I guess, in terms of you are taking on a fairly notorious stretch of water in terms of maritime history. You're taking on a project that hasn't been tried before. So what do you see as the main challenges of this whole project?
I think, yeah, all of that, but also just the social dynamic of 8 people in a relatively small, very confined space for however long will bring its own challenges. I think for me that would be the main one. I don't think there'll be any great problems, but you never know. It's a very interesting situation.
Have you had anything yet that's kind of tested the waters in terms of stress levels getting up extremely high over any particular issue with the project?
Paddy takes a couple of hours every morning before he stops being grumpy. That's kind of not ideal, but no. But in all seriousness, I mean, over the summer we spent a couple of months. We were hoping to make much faster progress than we did. Again, I'm sure lots of sailing people will kind of empathise with that. And you know, there was one moment where we had kind of just made it into Danish waters, and we were having to kind of motor on a little bit because we just The winds just don't. You have to get quite lucky, I suppose, to get good consistent winds. That was always the plan, but ultimately we ended up having to bob back to Sweden and we got towed in, didn't we, by the Coast Guard because the engine wasn't up to it, and we ended up in a kind of an industrial place in Sweden called Trelleborg, where we kind of, after we thought we kind of got the engine sorted, it was broken. So obviously morale at that point, especially having, we ultimately had a day of bobbing back to Sweden that we had to just, accept. And, setbacks like that can obviously test the group's dynamics and the group's morale and motivation and all the rest of it. So stuff like that.
And yeah, I think there was also Simon tells the story of the time when he had been doing a night shift, or at least a very late shift,
with the motor running.
Yeah, and then whoever had come on after him had tried to put on the sails, and he'd gone to bed and with the boat quite close to this wind farm. And when he woke up 6 hours later, the boat was further back than when he went to sleep because of all the tacking and jibbing. We'd ended up going backwards for about 6 hours.
Oh dear. Okay.
Was this when he had the dream where somebody was just shouting at him, "More coal, more coal"?
Yeah, he dreamt he was on an unstoppable train with someone shouting at him, "More coal."
Sums it up.
It won't be the last hallucination that's been had at sea, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So what are some of the funniest things that have happened so far on the trip in terms of the team dynamics and some of the carry-ons that have been going on? Anything you can share with us?
I think
there's quite a funny thing to do with the beds. We've got 2 cabins and we've got 4 bunks, and we've kind of got a constantly rotating crew of people who are here, or people who have got a partner here, or people who or depending on what capacity we're on. So there's inevitably there's the 2 top bunks. Well, not inevitably, but the way the boat has been built, again, fairly slapdash, but a good job nonetheless. But it's turned out that the top bunks are, the kind of the sleeping politics are kind of quite funny. So the top bunks are named after where me and Paddy are from, which is Oldham and Middlesbrough, and they have quite appropriately turned out to be the worst 2 places to sleep. So it's kind of like, so there's kind of some good chat around, how was it up in Oldham last night? It's like, you know what it's like in Oldham, man, it's pretty grim up there. And you kind of say, oh yeah, that sounds about right. And and just we've kind of got a bit of, we call the bunks the barracks. So there's a bit of barracks kind of, all that kind of chat around, like, there's a lot of irony and sarcasm. It's quite difficult to get anything straight out of people sometimes, because there's just the boat is called the Vikander, named after Alicia Vikander, who we all fancy a bit, I think. But we naturally named the dinghy Fassbender, because I think she used to go out with Fassbender.
That's right.
So we're trying to seize every opportunity for lightening things as that we can. So stuff like that, I'd say, ongoing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
I see you've got a Velvet Lounge on board as well. Anything's happening in the Velvet Lounge so far?
Not much velvet.
Yeah, not a lot of velvet would be the main.
Not as much lounging as I'd like
not
either.
Not a lot of lounging, not a lot of velvet.
It is looking good in all fairness. I mean, as with a lot of the boat, there were very grand designs for it, which have been scaled back a little. But there's like an octagon table in the centre and a seating area going round, a big TV, the flags of the places we've been to, and it's getting quite comfortable in here.
Half of the room has coloured light bulbs, which operate from solar panels, and the green one is currently working very well. So that's a nice treat. The rest are lying dormant at the moment, but I'm sure they're going to spurt into life at any moment.
Sounds like a nightclub I know in Oldham. Okay, I feel as though I have to precurse every serious question I'm going to ask you guys. So here comes a serious one that I'd like some kind of a serious reply to.
Sounds like a telling off.
I'd like you to tell my audience individually what you think this trip is going to mean to you, and how do you think it's going to change you as a human being?
Paddy's just gestured for me to go first on that one. What it's going to mean to me, and how I think it's going to change me. Yeah. Well, I think the great meaning I hope to derive from it is a sense of achievement, I suppose. I don't know if that is a meaning, but I think it'll be, if we get across the Atlantic and we record one episode of this series that turns out to be good, I think we'll have achieved something massive, and that sense of achievement. The real, that's really what I want to, what I would say I'm looking for. And in terms of the change, I would hope that it would only be more like development than change. I would hope it would be. And in terms of that development, I hope to become a more knowledgeable person. I hope to become good with sailing and all that kind of stuff. And I hope to build, stamina and tolerance and all and adaptability and leadership skills and all of these different things. I think we've got huge opportunity for personal development, and I think arguably unrivaled, having to live with 7 other people in close quarters, some of whom better than others, but ultimately we all have to work together and get along. I mean, it's a huge challenge, and I'm absolutely sure we can achieve it. I'm absolutely sure we can have fun doing it. But I think that the sense of achievement is going to be really massive, and that is all of those things together is, I hope, will provide some kind of meaning alongside all the learning and art stuff. Yeah.
Brilliant answer. Okay, next one.
I really don't know what I can add to that. I think James has hit the nail on the head. Yeah, sense of achievement would be the key phrase for me. Crossing the Atlantic especially is just such an alien concept to me, and making the show. And personal development. I really can't think of what to add. James is exactly correct, I think.
Hopefully get some good, development of our writing and our, the artistry and that kind of thing, would be good as well. I'm sure we'll have more deep kind of wells to get inspiration from as well. So that'd be good.
To not be so nervous on camera when filming would be a big one for me. I'd quite like that.
Yeah.
I was going to talk about the creativity side of it. Do you think by undertaking what you're actually doing with this, across the Atlantic and carrying on around the world, do you think it's going to aid your creativity and make you more, I guess, open to new ideas and things that you can actually bring into the show?
I think so, yeah. I think what we're trying to do as much as possible, or what almost as a mantra I'm trying to say all the time, is that we have to turn our disadvantages into advantages. So if something is a problem or isn't working, then we have to adapt to that or turn it into a joke of some kind.
There's absolutely no doubt about it. The experiences help creativity, though, and that's certainly something that I hope will aid the creativity in a positive way.
Now, I have a lot of people that listen to my show who are kind of on the precipice of taking that big leap in life to go and change their life and take on a big travel adventure, or not necessarily a big travel adventure, it can be a small travel adventure, but actually do something different than they've normally done before. What kind of advice would you pass on to those people listening today who are a bit fearful of taking that first step? What would you say to them to do?
I would say nobody ever comes back from traveling or living abroad and says, "Oh, well, that was terrible." People never come back with a negative sense of this. People always feel they grow from it or want to continue doing it. I don't know anyone who's gone and lived abroad or travelled abroad who's come back and felt bad about it.
Well, worst case scenario, you just go home, don't you? It's not like these decisions are they feel big when you're at home, don't they? But ultimately, if you don't want to go to the party, you could always go and go home if you don't like it there. I mean, the same applies to Polynesia.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I think, people end up seeing traveling or moving abroad as this huge thing that you have to really consider a lot. I mean, I think getting married or having a kid, these are the things you need to really consider. I think traveling is something you can try, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
And if you're married and you have the kid and the career, then if they're obviously the things hopefully you can take them with you, or everybody's situation is different. But I think it's very rarely that if you're lucky enough to have the opportunity to do anything like that, then it should be grasped with both hands. But Same time, if you don't, then it's all good. Everyone should just make themselves happy. But very like, I agree, I completely agree. Very few people are like, oh my God, I wish I hadn't gone to, Machu Picchu. It was rubbish.
Yeah, just a whole lot of ruins over there.
Yeah. Although a friend of mine, I did actually travel to Machu Picchu. We got to Cuzco, and he said he wasn't interested in going. There'd be too many backpacking idiots and just rocks on a hill, and he decided to go and play golf in the jungle instead. So I saw him a couple of months after.
Which he also enjoyed, though.
Which he enjoyed that. So it's win-win. Yeah.
Well, I want to share with you guys today that a world exclusive actually on my show here, that as of next year I'm going to be taking wrestling tours to Bolivia starting in January.
I want a 10% finder's fee, Mark, for this.
I'll get your 10% from a said policeman in Bolivia when I'm over there.
Yeah, watch out for the corrupt referees.
Yeah. So okay, well that all sounds good. Now I'm going to be bombarded with people who are going to say, okay, listen, I'm a writer, I'm a comedian, I want to go and join these guys on the boat. Are you open to having new people coming at some stage of the trip along the way around the world?
Bring another 1,000, Mark. If they've got the cash, they're welcome.
It's all about the money, yeah? It's all about the money. Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I think for now we've got the 8 for the crossing, but the 8 we've got now is very different to the 6 that we're supposed to be going at this point. So it's constantly changing and in flux. So yeah, I'd say follow us on Instagram, and there's always opportunities in the future, because this should be going on for quite a few years, this journey.
Yeah, we'd encourage people to get in touch. It's a fluid project that will ultimately has already taken on its own life away from the original few, and I think that'll probably continue. So I think people should get in touch. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Now, after you get across to the Caribbean, what's the plans then?
Oh, well, it depends how we go. I mean, lots of, we're very conscious of the fact that we could have all fallen out with each other and decided we hate the whole thing, and all the rest of it. Obviously, we think that's unlikely to happen. So the plan, once we get to the Caribbean, ultimately is to head to Colombia, where Fred is getting married, and then we hope after that we'll kind of have a look at things again. And the hope is obviously that we'll be able to carry on traveling, but we've learned to take one step at a time, and ultimately we will do whatever is possible and whatever we want to do. But we're reluctant to say too strongly what the plans are beyond Colombia in March time.
Yeah, we've learned that the plans at one point were changing, perhaps monthly, then it was weekly, then daily, and now it's pretty much every hour the plan is slightly different. So yeah, we've learned to try and be as adaptable as possible and just try and enjoy it and see what happens. Yeah, it could go literally any direction, really.
Now, is this something that's being personally funded, or is it a crowd-funded project? Can people jump on board and help you through the likes of Patreon and that sort of stuff? How are you doing it financially?
We did, for the comedy series, we did a Kickstarter fund, which a lot of friends and family or people we'd met traveling and all sorts were very generous with, which enabled us to get good camera equipment, sound equipment, some props we needed, a drone. But in terms of the boat, there are essentially 6 owners or 8 owners, of whom James and I are 2 of them, and then there's some other people who joined us who kind of pay as they go along, and various ways.
Yeah, it's personally funded. I mean, obviously, ultimately, as we alluded to earlier, a dream would be to get enough interest and further funding. But it's for us, and it's funded by us ultimately at the moment, and we don't anticipate too many major changes to that. But we very much will be hoping it takes other forms as well.
What's the plans after you've done the first episode or 2 of the show?
Well, the second episode being set all at sea as we cross in the Atlantic. Then episode 3 we'll film in the Caribbean somewhere, perhaps Colombia, to tie in with the wedding we'll be attending there. Then after that, we'll see, really. Ideally, there'll be a further 7 episodes, but realistically, we'll have to see how it goes and how much interest there is and demand and how well we're doing with it, I guess.
Yeah, it's going to depend. It's going to depend on lots of things, isn't it? But I think we're quite determined to carry on in some form or another. I mean, hopefully, I think a lot will depend on how well the first episode comes out, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Hopefully, we'll be buoyed by it.
Yeah, I think we've got the characters and the concept and any kind of character arcs that will be taking place and group dynamic all set. So within that, we should be able to be very versatile as long as logistics permit us to.
Well, I've already been down to Ladbrokes and put a huge amount of money on you guys making this a success, so don't leave any stone unturned on this one, yeah?
What odds did you get, Mark?
The guy said to me, first of all, Circumglobal, what the hell's that?
It's a good start.
Yeah.
So I just had to fill him in. It was a bit like, James and Paddy and Mark walked into a pub in Ireland, yeah?
Yeah, time for a pub bet, guys. Let's come up with a project. Now Ladbrokes are in on it. Got enough people drunk.
There's a financial backer that everybody needs.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it sounds to me like you're taking a rather conservative approach when it comes to expectations on how this is going to go. So I think it's a reasonable thing to do, but I guess deep down inside you've really got high ambitions in terms of, one, the amount of effort that you're all putting into making this work, and secondly the passion that's behind it. Yeah,
that's exactly right. Yeah, in all aspects of this, from the boat itself, construction wise, to the sailing, to the show, expectations or our ambition is very high, but also trying to be realistic, and then if things don't go well, handling that correctly and being as adaptable as we can be.
Okay, well, look, we've nearly come to the end of our time together, and I've heard through the grapevine that it looks like you guys are going to be untying the lines sometime tomorrow and heading off across the Atlantic. How are you both feeling about that now that it's nearly on your doorstep?
Paddy's just pointed at me again. I'm feeling excited and nervous at the same time, but I think more than anything, I can't quite believe it's happening. The boat's been here in Las Palmas for over a month now, or about a month, and I can't believe it's actually going to move. So let's get it moving, and I'm looking forward to it. And but how much vomiting are we going to do?
Quite a lot, I imagine, the first few days. But yeah, James is right. For me too, it's a good combination of excitement and trepidation, but I quite like that combination of emotions. It shows that you're doing something quite adventurous, I suppose.
If we weren't nervous, it'd be weird, wouldn't it?
Yeah, probably unsafe.
Yeah.
And unsafe, yeah.
Is there a big last supper plan? What's going to be the last thing that you taste on land that you've got kind of earmarked for the big hurrah?
About 20 Jaeger bombs, I think we've got. No, we've learned our lesson about not going out drinking the night before setting sail. So remaining sober, and maybe what would you say would be the final supper, James?
Well, we had Chinese food last night, so nothing planned. Mark would be the answer to that, but maybe some tapas or something, when in Rome.
Well, listen, it's been an absolute honour to have you guys on the show. I'm glad I came across you, and I know that all my listeners are going to be begging for me to have a chat to you when you get to the other side. So if you're up for that, let me know, and we'll reconnect sometime when you hit the shores of the Caribbean, and I hope it's not hitting the shores literally, but making a safe passage over there as well.
Absolutely, we'd love to do that again, Mark. Thank you.
Well, all the very best, and I will put this show out early next week, so unfortunately you're going to be in the middle of the ocean, but you'll probably hear all the feedback when you get into Wi-Fi range once again, and I wish you fair winds and a safe passage across the Atlantic, guys. Thanks, James and Paddy, for coming on the Global Travel Channel podcast show.
Thanks, Mark. Nice talking to you.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Speak again soon.
Okay. So there we go, a couple of great blokes in James and Paddy. That show was actually recorded just a couple of days ago, and right now they will be out there in the middle of the Atlantic somewhere on their incredible journey. So I can't wait to catch up with them again when they're on the other side and see how the whole trip was. Okay, well that's it for this particular episode. I hope you're all having a very Merry Christmas Day and enjoying it. Remember, when you get to that time of the day and you've eaten all that you can eat and you just want to chill out and relax, it would be a great time to listen to some podcasts. So head on over to the Global Travel Channel podcast show at www.globaltravelchannel.com and download some more of our podcast episodes to listen to. If you're looking at downloading them, you can get them from iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play. All those links are listed on our website and you can easily get them downloaded from there. Okay, well, it's time for me to go and have some Christmas lunch. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas once again. Look forward to bringing you more podcast shows after the Christmas holidays. And until then, my name is Mark Philpott. I wish you all a happy and safe bon voyage.